What up though? It's InkByDee here with a tattoo tutorial. Teach y'all what I done learned over these 5+ years. I'm an Atlanta-based tattoo artist. All right, let me do that over. When I say let me do it over, you don't gotta stop nothing. I'll just keep going, right? All right, bet.
K Factory Productions.
How's it going? My name is InkByDee, here to give you a tattoo tutorial. Now, what up though? It's InkByDee, here to let you know everything I know. We're going over lining, shading, portrait, color, anything you need to know. I'm gonna make sure you got it down packed. My bold line work, that's my specialty. I get a lot of DMs and a lot of messages and emails on that on a regular day-to-day. So, happy birthday, here we go.
We was in the trenches trying to get it out the mud. Looking up the killers trying to figure who I was. Solar Richard Porter, I just wanna feel the love. I feel like a crip cause I can't even trust my blood.
Boy, that shit'll get your ass the answer.
Loyalty. I say spoil me. You ain't my dog, you falling out about no lawyer fee. You had a brick and I ain't
Alright, so let's get into this piece that I worked on a couple weeks ago, right? So, as you can see, I'm setting up, going into putting my machine together. I like to use rotary machines. You can use a coil, it's a different setup a lot of times. But with the rotary machine, it's just a battery pack most of the time that I'm putting into it. Make sure you wrap that up with Sensi wrap, surgical wrap, whatever you want to call it. You can find it at CVS, Walmart, Walgreens, or at a tattoo supply shop. So you see here, I want y'all to see that right there. This aloe that I'm using, that's a cheat code, right? Aloe vera. I don't really like to use green soap when I'm doing my tattoos because it irritates the skin. A lot of people don't understand this part of tattooing, and even if you're not an artist and you never had tattoos, you can understand this. If you get a paper cut and you go run it under water, it's gonna burn like hell, even though it's just water. So when you get tattooed, even though it's soap that you cleaning it with, that shit is burning every time you letting that liquid hit it. So what I use is aloe vera. We ain't gonna go too deep into that, but on my next tutorial video, I'll talk more about that. But aloe vera, clean your tattoos with that. Set it up next to your station, about the same amount of ointment that you use. Next, I'm filling up my ink caps. I think this is a super big part of what makes a tattoo artist's style and their setup look the way it look is how many drops you use. So for me, I like to use 4 to 5 caps on the average tattoo. I use a straight black, or I have 2 cups of black, and I have a medium tone, which would be halfway filled up, and then the rest water and witch hazel. And then I have 2 other caps, which would be a 5 drop and a 2 drop. And what I mean by 5 and 2 drop is 5 drops of black, 2 drops of black. And then I'm about to show y'all one more cheat code, right? What I do after that. After I fill those up, I come back through with another ink. A lot of people always ask me how my tattoos get the tones that they get and what make them look new even after they heal. Is that red? He put red in his tattoos? Yes, sirski. Cheat code, man. You take like 3, 4, maybe 5 if you got you a darker complexion that you're working with. But look, you take a few drops of those in each gray cap. Not your black, because you want your black to be straight black. But in each gray cap, then you see I get my witch hazel. Fill that up to the top. If you don't got one of these, go get one of these. It's an ink mixer. You don't want to just have red ink sitting on top of black ink without it actually blending together. So order you an ink mixer, they like $5 if you can't find one at a tattoo shop around you. So that's my setup right there. Like I said, you got straight black, half black, 5, 2 drop. And then a couple drops of red in each one to give you that nice tone. And the reason I use red, so I explain that. The reason I use red is because I tattoo and specialize on brown skin tattooing. And a lot of times, our skin tones are already shades of different colors. It could be shades of pink, orange, red, whatever it is. But red is almost one of the main tones that if I smack your arm or your wrist, you get that tone come out of you naturally. So when you throw that in the tattoo and into your grays, even after the tattoo heals, it's almost give it a bruised effect and make it look like you just got your tattoo last week, even though it's been 3, 4 years. Freaking. That's something a lot of tattoo artists don't do. It ain't nothing that's necessary, but I know it helped my style if you want to try that. Let me see what else I'm talking about on here.
And then I do 2 caps of black. A lot of artists always ask me, what kind of ink you use? What kind of It ain't the ink. Most artists, this shit like Internet Explorer and Safari. You either gonna use one or the other. Everybody using the same ink. It's how you use your ink. So of course I got dynamic, which I'm sure is the same thing that's on y'all shelf in y'all shop, at y'all house, whatever. I use 2 caps of black. When I'm about 3/4 or halfway into this cap, you gotta think your needle is picking up blood. So every time you dip in here, you're dipping blood back into that cap. So a lot of artists don't realize they're working with watered down black halfway into their tattoo. So instead of me keep using that same one, I clean my needle off and go to the next cap, and it'll hit strong right back halfway in. You know what I'm saying? Free game. Not free, because y'all got to pay for this shit.
Okay, so this is another thing I was talking about. My dynamic, I use dynamic ink, straight black. Sometimes I use super black. Most of the time it's just regular black. But what I do, because a lot of people ask me how my tattoos get so dark, how I get all of those black to stay in there, how I do. I set up 2 different caps. So I set up 1 tone of straight black and another tone of straight black. And halfway through my tattoo, I go to that second cap. And people will be like, why do you do that? When you're working with a tattoo needle, if you take a microscope and like literally look at the needles and look at what you're picking up out of that skin, it's not just skin and just ointment. It's blood, skin, you know what I'm saying? All of that is going from your skin to the cap, your skin to the cap. So in reality, you watering that black down with everything that you putting back in it, whether it's your ointment, whether it's the blood, the plasma from the skin, whatever it is, you watering your cap down. So halfway through my tattoo, I go to a second black cap, and it give you that strong black throughout the entire thing. So we getting into it. You see I use 9.4 for my voltage on my machine. A lot of people use anywhere between 7 to 10. I think 9 is good for me, in between 9 and 9.5 because of my hand speed. And that's all that boils down to, is what your hand speed is.
Always put some A&D ointment, tattoo glue, aquaphor, whatever it is you want to use. I like to use A&D ointment because it's a lot more smooth and kind of get off the tattoo and kind of sit on top of the skin instead of going in while you tattooing. I like to always, because I'm right-handed, I always start in the bottom right corner of the tattoo. That way my hand not wiping away the stencil while I'm tattooing. Because if you start over here, by the time I get over here, I'm gonna bend and wipe away all of the stencil. So always, if you left-handed, start in your bottom left-hand corner. If you right-handed, start in your bottom right-hand corner.
All right, you see me going in my first couple lines. Oh, that shit look good. Can I come closer? That shit look good. That shit. That's a line for your ass. Alright, but you see what I'm doing there? I'm stretching the skin with my left hand, my middle finger, and my thumb. My left hand. And then I take the back of my right hand and stretch that out. So the whole time, every part of that skin, I'm making as flat as possible so that when you hit it with the needle, it's going straight in versus it giving it a bounce back. You know what I'm saying? Imagine I was vacuuming earlier, right? I was vacuuming my sheets because my fucking son got up this morning and decided to eat all my chips in the bed. So I had to get all the chips up. But as I'm vacuuming, the sheets is getting caught up in the vacuum. But when I stretch the sheets out, I can actually get every last little chip on there. It's almost the same when you're trying to get that ink to go inside the skin. If you're not stretching that shit out, you just kind of, the needle just kind of bouncing around on the skin versus having something flat to kind of hit and, you know what I'm saying, go along with. Hopefully that was a good comparison. That's all the fuck I could think of. Oh, that's a bar right there. I said the farther out you have your needle, the harder it's gonna hit. People always ask me how far out you should have your needle. I don't really think it's a right or wrong answer. That's almost like I was saying with your voltage and how fast you should run your machine. It's based on your hand speed. So if you know that you a little heavier on the hand, or if you know that you don't really apply that much pressure, you either gonna pull your needle out more or you gonna pull it in more. If you heavier on the hand, you're gonna pull your needle in more because you don't need it to hit that hard. If you super light-handed and you can't really get the ink to stick, just try to pull the needle out a little more. It won't hurt. It might hurt, so get in and out, but you get what I'm saying.
So the thing with how far out I place my needle is all dependent on two things. Where I got it at right now is kind of the average. The only reason I pull it out farther is if I'm tattooing on the area to where the skin not super stretched out. The farther out you got your needle, the harder it's gonna hit. The more you bring your needle in, the softer it's gonna hit. So like when I'm shading, if I want it to be a soft type of shading, I bring my needle in. If I want it to be like super black, or if I'm putting color in, I bring the needle all the way out because I know it's gonna hit it right away. But like where I got it at right now, because this area, the skin not really extra loose or extra tight, it's kind of in between. I kind of got it in the medium point.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is shading right there. I ain't talking about lining. When you shading, as far as your needle depth go, same thing. If you want to get straight black or super dark grays in there, bring your needle out more. If you want to get that super edgy shade versus like that soft like flower, you know what I'm saying, flower shade, then you want to bring your needle out more so that you can literally see. The more you bring your needle out, the more you will see each individual needle that's on the skin. You literally can see the lines from it. But if you bring your needle all the way in while you shading, it'll almost come off like a brush on the skin. So when I get to my lighter tones, a lot of times, on top of me changing my ink caps, I'm also changing my needle depth. If I know I'm trying to get it extra dark, I'll pull my needle out more. If I know I'm just trying to go for like a portrait, like a face, all up in here, all on the sides, I pull my needle all the way in because I want it to be super soft when I'm shading this type of stuff on the portrait. But let's say I was trying to shade underneath the chin and I wanted to get them dark shadows, I'll pull my needle out more before I shade that part.
And when I'm pulling my needle in and out, I was explaining to somebody one time, it's two things that determine, really three things that determine how your ink go in the skin, right? And it took me a minute to understand this, and it really, like, even when I was doing good tattoos, I ain't understand this part. So a lot of people be tattooing for years and don't understand that your voltage, how fast you run your machine, your hand speed, how fast you move from right here to right here, and your how far out your needle is.
I'm just talking about the voltage of the machine and how fast your hand speed is. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that can't be taught. Is you understanding that it's the driver, not the car. Like, you can learn everything you need to learn about what kind of gas to put in it, how fast to go, all of that. But if you don't get your foot to go on the gas however you need it to, or you don't get your hands to move on the wheel how you need it to, can't nobody really teach you that. So as much as I could tell you about voltage and your needle depth, that's all gonna be a part of you understanding and why you're doing your tattoos, what's working for you. Just take your time. Even if you got to go home and order you some tattoo numbing cream and you put it on your thigh right here, and you literally just do a line and pull your needle out a little more and do another line. Like, that's what I had to do to figure a lot of it out as far as my hand speed go.
Like certain parts, like this right here, I don't really gotta stretch the skin too much just because it's right here by her knee, and the skin kind of already stretched out a little bit. But like when I get over here, like you see how that part a lot more loose her skin is. I actually got to take my fingers and stretch it out to get the ink to really go in the skin.
All right, so I don't know if y'all seen that, right? But I did a line and I went like this with my neck. Please, for all of the good caring tattoo lovers in the world, stop wiping your client's tattoo if you don't got to. That shit hurt. Don't do it. I always tell people I became a artist and put my blueprint together of what an artist would be based off me being a client. Like, even when it comes to how I treat my clientele, how I communicate with them, and how I actually do the tattoos, the pain tolerance, I know what that shit feel like. Y'all know what it feel like. Don't wipe that tattoo if you don't got to. Pat it dry. And what else helped with that, right? I never really heard a lot of artists speak on this, but I know this is a thing. When you taking that needle and you making that skin break open with the cuts that you applying, you literally can make a perfect cut and wipe out some of the ink that was inside of that perfect cut. Like imagine if you was like carving something on the wall and then you poured paint inside it, but then as soon as you poured the paint, you tried to wipe it all out, like versus patting it dry and letting the paint sit inside of that cut and then coming back through and wiping away the water. You know what I'm saying? That's how tattoos work. So the more you wipe it, you damn near making it harder for yourself and making them lines and all of the ink that could actually be in there stay in place. Pat it dry, use aloe vera. Say no to green soap until the end of the tattoo, if you can. Now, when you're working with color and doing certain things like that, you might have to pull out the green soap a little bit, but 9 times out of 10, that aloe vera get it. And I like to use burn relief gel, not straight aloe vera. Let me make sure that's clear, make sure we get that in there. Not straight aloe vera plant. Even though I'm sure that it ain't far from it, it wouldn't be. You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking off of my own experience, and what I use is burn relief gel. It'll be right next to the Bactine, anything with lidocaine in it in your medical aisle in CVS, Walgreens, Walmart.
See how much thicker that is versus that.
All right, so right here what I'm showing is the different line weights that I like to use in tattoos. I think this one of the biggest forms of styles in tattooing that makes or break a lot of artists' portfolio is you making sure you put line work in your tattoos. Now, if you a realism tattoo artist and you don't really use lines because you do portraits and animal faces, you know what I'm saying, all realistic pieces, then that's an exception. But for those of you that like doing cartoons or anime or anything with line work in it, almost besides portraits, you have to use line weight, because what that does is it almost substitutes for shadows. So if you're looking at me right now and you see that I got my hand in front of my face, I would put a bolder line right here and then a thin line right here. You know what I'm saying? Because I want you to be able to see that this is in front of this. And that's what you kind of got to do when you're doing tattoos. If you got some flowers behind a woman's head, you want to always make the woman's head bolder than you make the flowers behind her head. You know what I'm saying? So just to show that certain things not flat and everything ain't just all lined up next to each other. There's certain stuff that's in front of it. Same thing with like flowers, and that's why I say you substitute lines for shadows, because when you're doing flowers, if you do a rose, you put in all of the shadows wherever you could put your finger at, because that petal is in front of that other petal. But versus you having them shadows, you could just use bold lines to show what's in front of what. Line weight, line weight, line weight, line weight.
And then I come back on that 5-round liner and kind of smoothing that out. That way it could give it a realistic effect. And kind of just fade some more definition of the petal off of that line. So I'm coming off of that line and then I'm just putting definition into this petal as I'm doing that.
All right, so this is what I was just talking about, right? Where I'm putting all of my dark tones on the edges of my petals, because I want you to be able to tell that that's where you can actually stick your finger at. And I keep saying stick your finger at, right? Lock that into your head if you can understand the analogy of what that means. Look at my face. When I'm doing a portrait, the only place I'm gonna put black ink is where I can stick my finger. My eyes, my nose, and my mouth. If I'm facing sideways, I'll put black in the ear. But besides that, you don't never want to really use dark tones and black where you can't put your hand up under or stick your finger in, because it takes away from what it really is. It's not realistic. Now, if you're going for a whole different style, then this really don't apply to you. But if you wanted something that actually look like what it is, and you want to show that this petal's supposed to be on this petal over this one, this petal's supposed to be on top of this one, you just do them dark tones, and on the lights light side of the petals, you just do super soft grays. You almost leave as much skin open as you can when you're not doing those dark tones, because that's what complement it. You don't never want to overdo a tattoo. You always want to get your darks in there first, come back off of it, and then almost like play with the other grays that you're putting in there, because you already got your depth and your shadows once you get it down to that.
And even if you want to come back off the edge of the flower to give it that depth, as if it's like a real fold in there, you can even do that. Same thing, come all the way in this corner and just come out.
I created this picture, not from scratch, of course, but the woman was already designed. The woman and these 3 flowers, this was already pre-designed by somebody. I kind of went through and added my own flavor with the dreads coming out the top of the hair wrap, and then the Libra scale earrings. But I say that to say, a lot of artists take so much pride in being original or being creative. And ain't nothing wrong with being original or creative. But somebody like me, my dog Bone be telling me I got like a retardation as an artist to where I could only do what I see. And it's like, if I got to think about like where shadows go or where light go, or you know what I'm saying, it's like I might fuck around and do it wrong. And to be honest, it's the truth, but I'm just admitting it. A lot of artists can't do shit unless they looking at it. But they take so much pride in it that by the time they do their tattoo, they be like, I ain't finna pull my phone out and go look at that shit. I know where to shade. Or I ain't finna look at the reference picture. I know where to shade. And it's like, I'm gonna shade where they shaded on this motherfucker because it makes sense. And once I do that, then I can go through and try to like add my own flavor to it. But it's like they put that shit where it go because that's where it goes for real.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about right here, right? Is your tattoo reference. This is a big thing in the tattoo industry, in the community, where you have some artists that say, I won't tattoo another tattoo artist's artwork. And you got some tattoo artists that say, I will only tattoo a tattoo for a client if it already comes pre-illustrated and with the artwork done, right? So you got some artists that's like, I want to tattoo a picture of this tattoo that was already done, but I want to do this tattoo just like this other artist did it. Then you got some artists that's like, I don't want to see no tattoos. I want to go and Google a picture of an actual real lion or actual real tiger. Whatever your preference is, make sure when you start your tattoo, you got that picture next to you. If it's a tattoo that another artist did that you're using as your reference, make sure you got it sitting right next to you while you're doing your tattoo. If it's a lion that, or something that you got off of Google Images, make sure you got that reference sitting right there next to you. I know we are artists. I know we're creative. I know we could come up with our imagination and add our own thoughts and details of what God created. But all lions look alike. All tigers look alike. All, you know what I'm saying? It's certain things that if you don't put the shadows where they go, if you're not paying attention to your reference, you're turning your tiger into a monkey.
If they got shaded right here and right here and right here on the side of her neck, it's because the sun is over here or the light is over here and the shadows is on this back side. Me not having this, I could go on this and motherfucking just shade these hands however I want and it'll come out not looking like the light was in a specific place. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people be letting their pride hurt them. I goddamn be the first to admit, like, shit, I don't know where to start shading this motherfucker. So I'm gonna go look at my. And the thing is, a lot of times you might not have a reference photo. So like, if I didn't have this hand, all I do is Google a picture of a hand balled up like this and shade it how they had they hand shaded on here.
So you want to make sure you put in those dark tones in the tiger nose, and what tells you to do that is your reference a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? Because the littlest things will make the biggest difference, and sometimes we could get a little too creative by not going back to what inspired us. So it ain't a bad thing to be creative, but you gotta stay grounded with your inspiration and stick to the script too. I always like to say, I'm gonna get the tattoo all the way done right, exactly how my reference showed, and then I'm gonna add whatever I want to. That's why I start doing a lot of bold line work and adding a lot of like realism and vibrant colors into my pieces, because that was something that separated me from other artists, even if I was using them as inspiration and using their references.
feel like bold lines is becoming more common in like the tattoo game right now?
No, yeah, that bold line work definitely becoming popular. It's almost like it's two things with it, right? It's a cool effect on tattoos because it almost make it look like a sticker after your tattoo heal, and then you got the other side of it to where it holds up, because anytime you ever look at anything, like if you look at a logo, or even if you look at like this iPad, it's always a trim around something that holds it together. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, even if it's a white trim or a brown trim, whatever it is, it's something that holds it together. So on brown skin, like I say, I specialize on brown skin a lot. You have to have something around the tattoo to hold it together a lot of times, and that's what that bold line do. It almost from a distance shows you like, oh, that's a bird tattooed on his chest. Oh, that's a rose, because you see the outline of what the whole image is based on that bold line being there. So I think it is something that's becoming more popular, and I think that's kind of the inspiration behind why it's becoming popular. I left this out. This is to each his own when it comes to cleaning your needle, right? And I mentioned how many ink caps I set up, 4 to 5, and how I set them up. I didn't mention that I will a lot of times throw in an extra cap for straight water or witch hazel for me to clean my needle off. The reason I didn't mention that is because my style of tattooing and what I'm used to, I almost know how to run all of my ink out of the tube just for me to go to another color. So you got some artists, they got to keep a cup of water or something right there, and it's no problem. That helps a lot if you just want to bounce around. But I almost do all of my blacks first, then do all of my mediums, and then do all of my lights, versus like trying to bounce from black to light to medium. You know what I'm saying? But if you are an artist that want to kind of switch it up in between the tattoo, then kind of keep that witch hazel or water in the small ink cap next to you, or in a big little small cup next to you. Big little small cup, y'all know what I mean. Little shot glass motherfucker. Now I'm trying to show y'all how far out I got my needle, but we explained that already. Y'all want me to show y'all? Y'all want to get up close on this shit? Let me show y'all how far out I had my needle. Let me show y'all. So it's about, if you look at your pinky, it's about half of your pinky nail, not too far out. I don't know how many inches or centimeters that is, and I don't know how big your pinky is, but you get the idea. All right, so same thing right here, right? I'm getting these knuckles. She got her hand like this. So I'm shading the knuckles. But while I'm shading them, I'm putting all of my dark tones right here. Not my blacks, but my dark tones, so like my mediums, all up in here. I'm turning that mag sideways. I'm using the 13 mag right here, 13 curve mag. I'm turning that sideways, and I'm literally just hitting the middle and feathering it off of the inside. So I'm going like this. Boom, 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 boom. Feather, feather, feather. Boom, 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 boom. Out, out, out. Boom, 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 boom. Out, out.
Because it's good to leave skin tone as much as possible, especially when you're working with brown skin. But at the same time, you kind of fading everything together to look like it's smooth and going from dark to light as much as possible.
So I say it's good to leave skin tone open. I didn't shade all the way from here to here. I left a little skin open in between each one, especially when you're working on brown skin. But you do want to make sure, even if you don't shade all of this, you kind of making it come off of your, you know what I'm saying? Kind of making your darks go light as much as possible, so it don't look like just a dark spot. It look like it's fading from dark to light. But don't shade the whole finger. Don't shade the whole petal on the flower. Just shade from the edges of it all the way out.
So what I'm doing right now, And see, this is what I mean when I say you can go back and add your own thing. So you see I shaded in the 2 spots they did right there, right? But in reality, now that I know where the shadow is at, I can kind of bring that over to make it look like it's really reflected, right? So I come back, I clean in my glycerin or witch hazel, whichever one you want to use, and I come off of that shadow. Mind you that this is all the darkness. Everything on this side of the photo is what's dark and got dark shadows. Everything over here is what's gonna be bright. That's anything you ever look at. So I come off and I literally just, and as you can see, I really ain't doing nothing dark for real. The only reason I'm doing this is to kind of separate, and you're gonna see when it heal a little bit, but I'm literally just separating this skin tone right here that's in between this skin tone from the bracelet that she got on.
So right here is when I was talking about the reference, right? And what I'm talking about here is why they put the shading in the areas they put their shading. Because it's one thing to use references and to understand why you chose your reference because you liked it, but it's a whole nother thing to understand why you tattooing the way you tattooing versus just repeating steps. So whenever you're looking at an image, 9 times out of 10, they putting the shadows in the areas they put them in because of wherever the light is shining from. So if you got a line that's shining from up top, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be shadows coming down on the face right here. If you got a light coming down from the bottom, a lot of times you'll probably have a shadow coming from all up under here. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically why they put the shading in the areas they did on the neck and the fingers. And what I like to do is pay attention to it and then almost break down in my mind where would any other shadows or highlights be that they might have missed out. So right here, I see that they shaded inside of her face, right? On the side though, coming off this way. And then I seen that they shaded on the side of her neck coming off of this way. So 9 times out of 10, if I go down into her body and her collarbone, this side of her same body is gonna have shading coming off of it. Not this side, but this side, because 9 times out of 10, that's the side that the light hit from. So you could kind of just use that that strategy when looking at your references to kind of help you out versus you just having to keep going back to it. Even though it's good to have it there, you want to kind of teach yourself too.
You ready? Alright. So y'all remember earlier I came through with this 5 and kind of put all of the detail inside of these petals. Now I done seen a lot of artists do that and then they won't come back through with a darker shade to kind of clean those up. So let me show y'all. I'm gonna clean it off real good with that aloe gel so y'all can kind of see exactly what I'm doing. But I'm gonna show y'all with this petal right here, right? Watch how much more detailed I'm making with just this half drop.
All right, so what I'm showing now is how I did the whole tattoo with my 5 drop. So you can see all of this. I got it paused, but I'm gonna play it a little bit so you can see. All of this right here is all 5 drop. Even in the areas where it looked like it got a little darker at, that's all 5 drop. I ain't even went to my middle tone yet. I did all of my light tones in there first after I did my blacks for my line work. And now I'm finally about to go through with my middle tone to actually darken up certain spots. So you see me right there just hitting the edge of it so I can actually get in the corners. You see me coming from the bottom. And this is my dark tone that I'm using. I ain't trying to go back over everything I shaded. I'm only trying to complement what I shaded with a little dark highlights in between. That shit look good too. Let's see what's next. Alright. So right here, you will see I'm about to start going through with my blacks. This is what I wanted to show y'all. You see, I'm literally on the line where that petal is, on the inside of that petal. Not on the outer edge of it, but on the inside of that petal where that line is, I'm taking my black because I want you to see that that's separating it from the petal next to it. That way it don't look like it's just a whole bunch of petals, all like, you know what I'm saying? You don't want your flower to look like one big petal versus 4 or 5 small petals that's overlapping each other. And that bold line and those dark blacks in between is what separated. All right, so you see me right here. This is a good tattoo to do a tutorial on because I'm doing face, and a lot of people always ask me about my portraits. So as you see right here, I'm taking my dark gray and I'm lining the inside of the face, but I'm barely touching it. And then I come back through with my 13 curve mag and I just hit the edge of the face to get those soft grays. That's my 5 drop that I'm using. Same thing when you get up there on that headpiece, whole bunch of soft tones. Alright, so right here you can see me, I'm finna wipe the tattoo down for the first time. After probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I think that's how long the tattoo took me. But I'm using CVS Health Burn Relief Spray. Lidocaine 0.5% or 5%. 9 times out of 10, anywhere you go, whether it's Bactine, some tattoo stuff, you're gonna have about 5% lidocaine. If you get anything over that, call me. Putting that aloe on top of it, that shit look good. That shit look good. Oh, that boy D hard. That motherfucker hard. You see that? But that aloe, it take that swelling down, it take the redness down. I don't know if y'all can see what it just did, right? This when I first wipe it, you literally can see after like 5 minutes what it's about to do. I wipe that aloe, you see all that redness in the face and in the hands and in the flowers. Watch after I let it sit on there for 5 minutes what it do before I get my video. This what I do before I get my pictures and videos. You see how it's way smoother and them grays and set in versus it being super red and bruised up. It's that aloe vera. Alright, then you see me, I'm wrapping it up with saran wrap. I always tell my clients to leave it on for about an hour. If they going somewhere, like gotta go to work or gotta do something in the meantime, a little over an hour would be cool, but you never want to leave that plastic on for more than half or more than a day because you want to let your tattoos breathe. Now you got different forms of bandages. You got second skin, Sanoderm. You got Sanoderm that you can use. I don't really prefer it for me and my clients, but if you use that, that's cool too. You take that off about 3, 4, 5 days later. But as far as aftercare go, I recommend Eucerin or Aquaphor. I have a few different skin care, I guess you could say I have a few different tattoo companies that I'm trying out as far as aftercare goes. But for now, we're sticking with Aquaphor and Eucerin. I like Eucerin a little better than Aquaphor because it's a little less greasy. It'll kind of go in the pores and in the skin versus on top of the skin. I don't prefer A&D ointment. It's too much like Neosporin and Vaseline and stuff like that because it kind of sits on top of the skin. And what people don't understand about like A&D ointment is it's a healing ointment. So it's meant to heal your skin, and when you're healing your skin, you want to get it back to what it was before the scar was there, or the scratch or the cut, whatever that is. And in our instance, it's going to be a tattoo that's going to be taken away from. So you want to kind of stay away from that. As far as washing your tattoos, you want to use a white bar of Dove soap, or you can use Dial soap. I prefer Dove because it dries the skin out a little less, but that's based on the individual as well. So either one of those works because they both fragrance free. You want to use bar soap because it's antibacterial as well. You want to use your hand about the first 3-4 days to lather it up real good in the shower or the tub with your hands, and then wipe down the area, whether it's your leg, neck, arm, chest. You want to wipe it down with your hands and kind of let the water run over your body versus the shower head hitting it directly. A lot of times that'd be too much pressure or too much heat on your tattoo that fresh. So you want to stay away from that. After about 3-4 days, you could get back into using your rag for the tattoo and patting it dry when you're getting out of the shower. I like to tell people two or 3 times a day for the ointment. 2 times in the morning and at night, 3 times if you could think about it throughout your day. I just got a brand new tattoo on my leg. I keep it in my bag with me. So just take your Aquaphor, take your Eucerin little small tool with you wherever you go. And artists, because that was for the clients. Artists, communicate with your clients. Let them know that they can hit you up after the tattoo. Don't make them feel like they just walking out and they gave you their hard-earned money and you're not willing to deal with them no more. Make them comfortable with reaching out to you and asking questions. Let them know that it will take 2 weeks to a month a lot of times for you to even give them proper feedback, because you gotta let the tattoo properly heal before you can tell somebody what it's gonna be. But communicate with your clients, give them a Chick-fil-A service if you can at all times. I like to pride myself on that, me talking to my clients through tattoos. If you think about our job as tattoo artists, we don't understand it, but we similar to mechanics, because when people come into our profession and come get our service, they only know what we tell them. If you tell your client that this is what it's gonna be, this how long it's gonna take, this how bad it's gonna, they're literally gonna trust everything you say, just like when you go get your car fixed. So you wanna make them as comfortable as possible and educate them, just like a mechanic would educate you on what's going on with your car and let you know, like, yeah, they did this in '98, but this new part just came in 2004. Whatever it is that you got to explain to them, if you are breaking down how your machine works, tell your client that, so you can have them in your world and in your, give them your vision, you know what I'm saying, and y'all can be on the same page, because yeah, tattoo takes talent, but it takes good energy, and it takes a person to be, not only you as an artist to be in your bag mentally and in a good space, but for your client to believe you and trust you and want to actually be there. So that's something to take with you along the way. Okay, so the reason you want to make sure you putting that saran wrap around the tattoo is because 9 times out of 10, if you're going outside, or even if you just walking from one room to the next, you're exposing your tattoo to thousands and thousands of dust particles, other dead skin cells, if you know what dust is, even the dirt that's just outside in the air. Your tattoo needs to close as far as those cuts go, right? If you could think of, like I said earlier, a paper cut, because I like to compare it to that, because tattoos are cuts, but they're not like I cut you with a knife. It's just cuts to where it's almost like that first layer has been cut open, and that's all the paper cut is, because a piece of paper can't cut you that deep, but it can cut you enough for that first layer to open up. And with a paper cut, after an hour or two, a lot of times you will look at your hand and realize that shit didn't start closing up. And then the next morning you see like, oh, this whole cut ain't even, and the next day it's almost like it's flat. That's how your tattoo is working. So of course, 30 minutes after your tattoo, you can almost feel and look and see that skin is still open. So if you don't put that wrap on it, you giving your tattoo and the cuts that's there too much exposure to infection or bacteria or any type of just regular dirt that can be in it. Alright, so just to give y'all a little insight on what materials, machines, and needles and everything I was using during that tattoo tutorial video. For needles, I use Easy Grip needles. Those are some of my favorite ones. They've been working for me for a minute. If I go outside of Easy Grip, I like to mess with Bishop. They're a good tattoo company, and as well as Cheyenne. I shop on either needlesupply.com or Painful Pleasures or your local tattoo area supply shop in the area. For the machines, I like to switch it up almost like if you able to have multiple cars, you would like to drive different ones, different days. I like to use my Bishop Magi, M-A-G-I. I like to use my Jetpack Hero and my Zion. I shade with my Magi and my Bishop wand, and then for lining, I use my Zion pen or my Jetpack Hero pen. As far as napkins, paper towels go, I like to go Bounty. People, and it's crazy because I brought that up because all of it matters. Your razor, your paper towels, your gloves, every little thing that you invest into your craft when it comes to tattooing matters. You don't want to use the wrong type of paper towels because as you're wiping away on the tattoo, like I say, if you take a microscope and look on top of that, you will be surprised how many of those cheap napkins will leave little small pieces of tissue paper, napkin paper, whatever you want to call it, on your tattoo in the skin. So not only is it getting stuck in the skin, it's getting stuck in your needle and making it hard for you to get your grays and your blacks and everything to go in like they're supposed to. So try to go for quality everything, quality paper towels, quality razors, quality gloves. What else? What am I leaving out? Gillette razors. I don't really care too much about the brand for the razors, but I will say always make sure it's a twin blade or at least a twin blade. Try to go for 4 or 6 blades if you can. Them single blades though, save that for chain gang tattoos. Don't do your clients like that. The tattoo chair for the client is all to each his own too. I've seen people literally have a setup like this with a chair like this because they know they're doing a forearm tattoo. You know what I'm saying? If you want to invest in a good quality chair that you can use for anything though, whether it's a chest piece, a back piece, a sleeve, you could go on Amazon or you could go, like I say, needlesupply.com, and you can get you something good for like $150 to $300. Anything under $150 probably won't last that long, so you want to invest in a good chair too, but not only for your client but for yourself. I got a chiropractor membership because I was tattooing in the wrong chair for a minute. You want to make sure you get something that supports your back as a tattoo artist because you're always leaning over and putting your head down while you're working, so you want to make sure you invest in that too if this is something you plan on doing long term. What's something else that I want to make sure I touch on and don't leave out as far as my material goes, because I know that's a big question, and I know me starting off early on, that was one of the main things I wanted to know, like what you're using to do what you're doing, because it's one thing for you to know how to do it, but it's another thing for you to actually feel like you're right there with the person because you're using the same thing that they're using. So anything that I use, I kind of want to make sure I touch on with y'all. I said the witch hazel, I said the green soap, the easy grip needles, the jetpack batteries and the machines, and the twin blade or more razors, the Bounty napkins, gloves. I always use nitrile. I don't really care too much for latex because everybody not immune to latex. Some people are allergic, so I try to go for nitrile gloves 9 times out of 10 if I can, and they kind of last longer. You don't got to really worry about them ripping while you're putting them on. What's something else? Ring lights. Invest. Like, people don't understand, you could do all of the work in the world. You can be the best artist in the world. If you don't know how to show that shit off, you wasting your time. Go ahead and invest in an $85 or $90 ring light. Buy you 2 if you can. Because why you want to get 2 is because you always, like I said, when you're looking at your references, they're showing where the shadows and the highlights came from, the light source. So it's the same thing when you're showing off your tattoo. You want to give it as much light source as possible so you can show every single highlight in the tattoo, every single shadow. The more light work you got, the more your audience able to feel like they right there in front of that tattoo just like you. Camera. Our iPhones, one of the biggest investments you can make. You got an Android, make sure you get you a good camera to invest in with that too. If you want to take it farther and get you a Nikon camera, go ahead and with that Canon, whatever it is you need to do, make sure you market your stuff as good as possible. Make sure you just basically show it off. And not only show it off, but be consistent with how you show it off. Don't show them a good tattoo one time and then the next time you got your camera like this while you recording. Every single time, if you're gonna start that motherfucker from the top to bottom, every time you record a tattoo, started from top to bottom. If you're gonna start your tattoo recorded from left to right every time you do it, stay consistent, because it's one thing to be in love with this craft and be a good artist, but it's another thing to understand is how you feed your family and make sure your business right. So with that being said, make sure you put it out there right. Make sure you invest in yourself, not only on your tattoo equipment, but everything it takes to show them what you worked on. Because I had a lot of people teach me how to tattoo, but nobody could teach me really how to show people what I was spending my hours and hours and hours on. So I think that's a big part of it. I know that helped me get to where I'm at, because the craft is half of the battle. The other half of it is what you got to take into showing them that you worked it, you know what I'm saying, coming to you. And that's why I speak on customer service, because it's like you can be the most talented motherfucker in the world, but if somebody walk in there and walk into your place and realize that they're not comfortable and the conversation not there and the environment and the vibe is off, then it makes them hard to even get that great service that you got to offer. Happy birthday! That's it.
K Factory Productions.